Welcome back to another interview, and this time we have Cameron here from Common Sense Investing. It's nice to have you on here for the first time. And can you please just, introduce yourself to the audience, talk a little bit about your background, who are you, essentially?
Right. So my name's Cameron. I'm with Common Sense Investing. You could find me just about everywhere now. I'm on YouTube. I have a website, commonsenseinvesting.ca. I'm on Rumble now. I'm on X. And basically, I am a microcap investor. That's what I do. That's what I'm known for. That's what I'm good at. It's been a long journey to get here, absolutely. So a little bit like you asked about my background. I kind of have two backgrounds.
Yeah.
I have like my real life, this is who I am background, and then I have like my social media background. It's almost like two different lives that we live here on social media. But like I style myself as like an average retail investor because I am here, I am investing, I have a large platform for investing. I'm not financially trained. I don't have like an MBA. I'm not a financial advisor. I don't run a hedge fund, right? I am typically in my previous life, I call it, I was a trades guy, right? I am an average guy that is doing different trades. And my father taught me how to invest. And I don't know how many other people have gone through this, but when I was 18, 19, 20 years old, and my father taught me to invest as a teenager, and I went to go invest, and the bank said, don't do it. It's too risky. You don't know what you're doing. Just trust us with your money and don't invest yourself. So I was like, oh my gosh, right? So I shouldn't invest. You're right. It's too risky. And I gave all my money to the bank, and they did kind of a terrible job with it.
And they take decent fees, right? I mean,
fees and underperforming. And I'm like, come on, I gotta eventually, after so many years, you're less young now, you're kind of in your 30s, and you go, I gotta be able to do better than this, right? So I started investing myself again based on like the training that my father taught me, and I was investing and I was doing well, and I had like the diversified bucket of stuff, and that was great. It was all large caps and indexes and everything like that. But then one year I took a look at this microcap stock, and I remember to this day it was Canadian Solar, CSIQ.
Do they still exist, or
they still exist?
Okay.
They still, man, it's a true microcap stock. It is up and down and up and down. But of course, not knowing what I'm doing, I'm like, this was 15, 16 years ago now, right? And so it's like, solar is the future, is what I was hearing. I was young, and solar were just coming into play, and you were hearing about the death of oil and gas, and the future is solar. This is the start.
Cycles, right?
This is the start, right? And I'm like, yeah. So I find this Canadian, even though everything they manufactured was in China, but a Canadian solar company. And I bought it at the time. It was at like, $2 or $3. It was a tiny little company. And then you don't pay attention because you don't typically pay attention when you're like invested into index funds and stuff. You don't have to pay attention every day. And, 6 months later, you go back and you check your investments, and okay, this index did good and this REIT did good. And here I've got this microcap stock that 5x'd, right? It went from like $2 to $3 to like $15, $16, $17. And I'm like, sell, right? Like sell. And then of course it went from, the $15, $16 that I sold at to 40 within like 3 months. And I'm hooked. I'm fascinated, right? And then you watch, it went from 40, it went back down to like 10. It absolutely crashed. And so within like an 18-month period, it went from like $3 to $40 to back down to $10. And I was hooked. I was fascinated. So that was the start of my microcap stock journey. Was like, okay, everything I owned did well, but this microcap stock just did incredible. And that was about 15 years ago now. And then my second life, which is here on social media, YouTube and everywhere else, is COVID, right? So I was not on social media at all. I lived in small northern towns that didn't really even have internet. And so I thought, literally at the time, I thought I might be the only microcap investor in the world. I had no idea that anybody else was interested.
It can feel like that sometimes.
Yeah. Until social media hit. And I'm like, I'm bored. I got some time at home. I get on social media and I look, I'm like, my gosh, there's investing communities on social media. I'm going to go check those out. I'm going to join some of these investing communities. And I got in there and I was horrified. I was like, oh my God, you're going to lose all your money. This is terrible. What are you doing? right?
Yeah.
Like, you remember the good old days of COVID where it's like Reddit groups
Everything
of
went
people
up. I know this. Like
just
the first stock
pumping
I bought
garbage.
during 2021, like this is
Yeah,
the one that hooked me into microcap investing. Manganese
yeah,
6 Energy still exists, right? Of course, they have like no real operating business,
yeah.
except if you call exploration, whatever, an operating business. And yeah, I bought it, and within a week it tripled, and since then I could never look back in that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, everybody was a genius investor back then, right?
Yeah.
Everything went up. And it's fantastic because, I read a study that about 1 in 5 investors during COVID were completely new investors. So that's
Mhm.
fantastic. COVID did that. COVID brought a whole bunch of new investors to the table, excited, interested, and learning how to invest. And that was fantastic. But the problem is like during COVID, I was literally sometimes screaming at my computer monitor. I was like, you're going to lose all your money,
Yeah.
right? And then it happened, right? And I kind of felt bad. Like later 2021 into 2022,
This
everybody
is when
did lose.
reality hits, right?
Yeah, and like people who were calling me, I don't know, you don't know what you're doing. This company is going to $1 trillion. It's the greatest
Mhm.
company in the world. All of a sudden, they lose like 95% of their money. People are losing retirement funds. People are losing every dollar they ever worked for in their life because they didn't know what they were doing and they weren't willing to listen to just
Mhm.
anonymous person online. And so I decided at that time, I was like, I'm going to open up my own social media channel. And at the time I was talking about some good companies, but I was also trying to expose some of the bad ones. And here's what you look for that's good. And here's kind of what you look for that's bad. So
Mhm.
that's kind of my background as far as like who I am as a person, but then also how kind of my journey got started here on social media was just watching people get wrecked in 2021 and trying to make a difference. And that's why even to this day, I consider myself like I'm not a stock picking channel. I'm an education channel. I'm a communication
Yeah, and you
channel. Like,
maybe introduce some stocks here and there, but more for like, hey, look, this exists here. Maybe have a look,
yes,
but yeah,
yes,
not like a recommendation or something.
exactly. You got it perfectly. Yep.
Yeah, and you stumbled into these sorts of communities. Like for the average person out there, like how would you say they can leverage these communities and really use them to their advantage to sort of learn, right? And perhaps not be in an echo chamber to get into sort of poor decision making, right? I mean, we know it too often. We see there's a lot of good investing communities out there, undeniably. Like your Discord, I have to say that small cap discoveries, micro cap club. There are a lot of these out there. And then you might have, Wall Street bets as, sort of an example of what not, what not to do, right? So yeah,
Yep.
what's like your opinion on that? How can you sort of leverage it best to your
Look,
advantage?
I'll make it simple for people. Like one of the things to get out of, especially again, talking to more newer investors, right? But you're not going to do it alone. One of the things I try to break all the time in people is, we get this romantic idea of like the lonely investor who's completely contrarian to the market, who's going to do his research and find this tiny little company that nobody knows about, and it's somehow magically going to become the next Amazon.
Mhm.
And you did it by yourself on your own, and that is success. And it's a nice romantic way to look at investing, but that's not typically how it works. From what I've seen and what I've seen is profitable. Like this is a team sport where it's like if I find a stock, normally I don't even find it. Sometimes you found some stocks for me.
Yeah,
Other
and
people
you
have
find some for me. I mean, that's how it goes. And
yes,
then Andriola finds something, or Ian finds something.
yes.
Everybody finds something, right? So
It's almost impossible to just do it alone, right? So it's
yeah.
typically you get a good network of people, and within that network, you cast a wide net, and a lot of fish swim through, and only the best fish get caught in the net. And then you go say, "Hey, look at what I found!" Right? And the entire premise of investing is that you have to find a company where somebody over time is willing to pay more for it than you did, which
Yeah.
means you need other people discovering that company and other people liking this company and other people willing to pay more for this
Mhm.
company than where you
And
found
to
it. So
criticize it, right? I mean, oftentimes you
yes,
might overlook something in the statements or something, and then it changes the whole thesis, right?
that is a fantastic point. So typically I try to tell people like I know it's very romantic to think it's
Mhm.
a lone kind of a job and you just sit in your dungeon here and find a perfect
Yeah.
stock. But typically you do need to, join some other people and have some other discussions. Now, again, to keep it simple for new investors, one of the things that's fantastic is the platform X. I know some people don't like X. That's great. You can go on X. I recently had a video about this, teaching people you could go on X and you could block everybody you don't like. If you don't
Yeah.
like Donald Trump, if you don't like Elon Musk, you could block those people or whatever. Just go follow the best people. And it's fantastic because if you're Canadian and you're interested in Canadian stocks, go follow Paul Andriola and Small Cap Discoveries. And if you're American and you're interested in American stocks, go follow Ian Castle and Microcap Club. And what X does is when you follow those people, it'll give you the option of like, do you want to follow everybody that Paul Andriola is following?
Yeah.
Yes. And you've just followed every major important Canadian microcap investor in Canada that's already been somewhat vetted by like the best microcap
Yeah.
investor in Canada. Same with Ian Castle in the US, right? Like Ian Castle isn't following pump and dumpers, right? Like when you follow Ian Castle and it says, do you want to follow everybody that Ian Castle follows? And you go, yes. There might be a bad apple or two in the group that
Mm.
sneaks through, but overall, you're following like a fantastic community of microcap stock investors. And when you do that just through
Mm.
Paul Andriola and Ian Castle, you're going to follow Keystone Financial. You're going to follow
Yeah.
Geo Investing. You're going to follow Matthew
Much,
Martin at
much good
Ribmont. You're going to get all the best
Yeah.
investors.
Mm. And we also know that you spend a lot of time looking and searching for these different microcap stocks. So, and when you take a look at them, like what are some non-negotiable traits that they have to have, as in like, that they have to sort of be successful, or perhaps maybe red flags that sort of make you already filter out a large portion of the stocks you might not be interested, because I mean, yeah, you can spend time on looking through thousands of companies, right? But realistically, if you have a job, and you still like to do this, you're sort of time constrained, right? So you have to find a system where you can shift through stocks very fast and save yourself time. So what are sort of your like thought processes around that?
Well, it's hard because again, and I'll try to talk to like a newer investor here, because you're going to start simple and then over time you're going to build that strategy. I think everybody should build their own
Our own,
strategy.
yeah, exactly.
Everybody's different. Everybody's got a different experience. Everybody's got a different level of competence and experience in this industry and no experience in another industry. And maybe you're good at talking to people and reading people, and other people simply are not. So you're gonna build those different strategies. But the main thing that I teach for or recommend, especially for newer investors, is what business would you like to own in real life? Like if you had to quit your job, if you had this was it, like you're done working and you sell everything you have and you've got this bucket of money and you can't buy Amazon or Tesla, but you do have enough money to just buy one microcap stock for the rest of your life. And that's that company that you buy, not that stock, that company you buy, it has to keep you rich and wealthy for the rest of your life, and raise your kids and help you get married and send your kids to college. And like, this is the company that you need to actually own. Well, when we're investing in stocks in the stock market, we're buying pieces of a company. That's literally what we're doing. So to simplify it for newer investors, like when you're researching these companies, and this is the company that has to keep you in money for the next 30-40 years of your life, what are you buying? Are you buying that company that's burning very speculative, might have a
Yeah.
great product, but it's burning $10 million a quarter? Are you buying this company that's maybe producing a lot of cash, but it hasn't shown any growth for 2 decades, and eventually inflation is going to crush you? Like, are you buying a milk industry when the milkman is dying, right? Like, are you looking for the future? What are you willing to put up with, right? And I think too many people look at stocks like stocks and not looking at stocks like companies. And once you get an idea of like, and again, that's where like competence and experience comes into it. If
Yeah.
you're in the oil and gas sector, maybe you should be looking at oil and gas stocks, and maybe you'd say like, look, yeah, this Junior Oil Explorer. I would own that company, or this oil company here. I would own that company. That company would keep me alive for the next 40 years. And so to simplify it for me, that's kind of what I'm looking for, is what would I own in real life?
Mhm. And often a very important part in not only investing in that particular obscure market, but also being able to stay long enough in it, right? That's where position sizing is also a very important part. So as far as I know, you are very sort of diversified, and when there's something you very very like, then you might increase it over time, and then you build conviction, and ideally it becomes a coffee can stock, right? So how can you just sort of give an overview to the audience here what exactly your thought processes are?
Yeah, see, now you're getting far more
Yeah.
complicated, right? And it's fascinating, these interviews. I tell people all the time, it's tough because the answer in investing is always it depends. There's very few black and whites. And I just had this little monologue here about like buying a company that's going to keep you funded for the next 40 years, which implies like long-term investing.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
definitely when I kind of look at a company, I definitely have that more long-term mindset. But at the same time, what's more important in investing that I have trouble convincing people is it's not necessarily about stock picking. Like everybody comes to this space and is like, great stock. I'm looking for a stock. What a fantastic stock pick. Now go find me another stock. And it's like, well, hold on, hold on, hold on. I can find microcap stocks are pretty volatile. I could find you a single stock, show you the graph, the chart in the past 5 years, and I can find you investors that lost money on this stock, and I could find you investors that made a shit pile
Yeah.
of money on this stock. It's not as much about the stock or the company as you would think it would. A lot of it is the investing strategy, which is more important. So again, for new investors, I'm like, how do you filter out 90% of the garbage and find the top 10%? Well, that you are looking for companies that you would like to own over the rest of your life. I 100% support that. But once you find those top 10%, those top 5%, those top
Mhm.
2%, then you're like, well, shit, how am I going? It's not as simple as just buying the company and running it. You don't run it. So how am I going to make money around this company? That's where research comes in. What are the cycles? What are the inflection points? What's going to happen with this company moving forward? And that it all comes down to, in the stock market, when are you going to buy? When are you going to hold? When are you going to trim? When are you going to sell? And those four things, understanding those four things, is how you make money or not money in the stock market. And we could have literally a deep conversation here about those four things, but
Yeah, I mean, it's complex enough already, right? So there's no
yeah,
easy answer to this. Everybody has their own strategy. Some people like, 5, 10 stocks maybe. Some are like, 20, 30, maybe even a bit more. I like to be very diversified. And when there's something I really like, then I go really deep into it. So there's like
yeah.
so many different approaches, really.
Well, if you're talking about that, again, I think the hard conversation to have is how much capital are you working with? So
Yeah.
if you're talking about diversification and risk, like one of the things I see that doesn't work a lot of the times is we'll see fantastic investors, some of the best microcap investors. And I personally feel like some of the advice that they're giving new investors is just not wrong, and or it's just not right. Sorry, it's wrong, and it's not their fault. The difference is I feel like the investing strategy used by like a wealthy, large capital microcap investor versus like a non-wealthy, younger growth, low capital investor, the
Mhm.
strategies have to be different, right?
Mhm.
So again, if we're talking about like buying, holding, trimming, selling, your small capital retail investor can do that at almost any time. You could buy a stock without pushing the share price up. You could sell a stock without pushing the share price down, right? You have that ability to get in and get out. So and larger investors don't have that. So when you see a lot of people talk about like, oh, I'm a long-term investor, they're typically like a larger capital investor. They have a
Yeah,
quarter
I mean,
million
they sort
dollars
of
in a
have to
stock.
be in a sense, but also they have a nice advantage in that sense because they can, in some ways, take on more risk, right? Because
Yeah.
let's say if you're sort of a small retail investor, so you sort of have to in some way stay, or at least in my opinion, more concentrated than a wealthier investor, simply because to drive those returns, to have something meaningful in a few years, if of course you have your strategy and everything, right? So
It's different styles of risk reduction. So, large capital investor will reduce their risk by owning 20 stocks. And yes, it'll be a large amount of money, but it'll be a large amount of money in 20 stocks. If you're just starting out and you only have $1,000, well, are you really going to invest in 20 stocks, right?
yeah,
That takes too much time. That takes too much research. Your
fees.
average retail investor, the fees, yeah, your average retail investor doesn't have time to monitor 20 companies for whether they're doing good or not. So your average retail investor tends to invest in 2 or 3 companies, right? Now, how do you reduce risk then? If you're a smaller capital retail investor, have that sell button ready, right? So a large capital investor doesn't need to sell as often because they own large positions in 20 stocks. And if they lose everything on 2 or 3 of them, it doesn't really matter because they might have 15 or 16 that are going up. That's how they reduce the risk. But
Right.
if you can't reduce your risk through the bucket of stocks that you own, and you are forced to have a concentrated bucket of stocks, then you have to be willing to sell to protect your capital and to de-risk. And so that's the disconnect sometimes I see is the larger investors will say, why are you selling, right? Like,
Mm.
this is long term. In 10 years, this company is going to be fantastic. I'm just going to hold forever. And it's like, but does the small retail investor, yeah, maybe in 10 years, this is a great company. What if it's not? And what if for the next 5 years it's not and it sucks? And the small retail investor is now stuck with this money in this losing stock that
An
may,
opportunity cost, right? I mean, every 2 years you have a new wave of stocks that sort of goes 5x, 10x. It's like it's in cycles, really.
yeah. So again, that's the strategy. Like, it's a great discussion. I could talk about this for hours. Like, and
Yeah.
it's nobody's fault. It's just the reality of like what happens in investing is large capital experienced investors will have a different strategy than small capital retail investors. They should be looking at things a little bit differently. Not that one way is wrong or one way is right. There's different ways to make money, and you're going to graduate into different levels depending on where you're at and where your experience is.
When you talked about, having the sell button ready, that's very reminiscent of sort of last year, right? I mean, we had so many stocks where it was really like sort of maybe quarterly plays, right? You can say, where it was dependent on earnings, and when something wasn't right, you better get out fast, or otherwise I mean, one example is Zoom Technologies, right? Otherwise you might have
Yeah.
to bear those increasing losses over the coming weeks, right? And
Yeah.
that's
Well,
yes.
we see it's one of the hardest things to get out of our system. Like, for new investors, experienced investors, it doesn't matter. It's amazing to me how many people will stubbornly hold, right? So again, smaller capital, I think it's more important than larger capital. But as a small capital investor, literally our superpower is being able to sell quickly and being able to buy quickly. And not using that is simply, it's like being given a power tool and using the old rusty screwdriver instead. Like, you have this wonderful, thing that you can use that gives you an advantage over everybody else, and you're not using it. So people have to, in my opinion, use that more, right? You can, if a thesis changes, if a stock is going down, you can get out quicker than any large investor can. So while a large investor is sitting there saying, no, we have to hold through this downturn, it
Yeah.
could potentially be because they have $1 million in this company and they can't
And
sell
if
it.
they sell, they might as well tank that stock all by themselves. So
Absolutely. So it's again, it's that investing strategy and just saying, look, I need to protect my capital here. I can sell on a Friday and I could buy on a Monday, right? I can literally,
yeah,
depending, everybody's got different fees, I know, but I'm Canadian, and a lot of my fellow Canadian investors, we recommend going on like no fee trading accounts, which exist out there. And you can literally take a position and sell it on Friday. And what's Trump going to say on the weekend? Oh, Trump didn't
yeah.
do anything crazy. I can rebuy this stock on Monday, right?
Mhm.
Like, you
Well,
can
tariff
literally
fears,
de-risk
and
through
we
doing
all
that.
are interested in stocks again, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and So what is your sort of perception of the markets currently? Like, where do you see us in sort of this cycle? I have the perception that there's still a lot of room, at least the next year or two, right? It's always hard to predict, but I would say it's especially in this small caps market. Like right now, you can say, okay, it's becoming more speculative, but it's still not reminiscent of sort of 2021 or the sort of crazy years before. Like how do you see that?
Yeah, look, I think again with investing, it's hard because people want like black or white answers, and unfortunately, a lot of the times with investing, the answer is it depends. So
And
I find
confidence, right? How much confidence you have in that? You have to be aware that there is no 100%, right?
exactly like you look at what's happening where in the market. If we're talking the general market, like if we look at the general market in 2025, the S&P 500 did fantastic and microcap stocks got obliterated. Unless your microcap stock is a metal stock, and then you're up 200%.
Yeah.
So where are you? Where are you investing, right? And so one of the things with especially microcap investing for me is being adaptable and being flexible to say, hey, if you're just going to stubbornly sit there and only invest in this and only do this and only keep this strategy because it worked for you once 3 or 4 years ago, and you think it's going to work again, it might, but you probably have some opportunity cost in there. Like microcap investing is typically about being adaptable, being flexible. I think the best microcap investors, in my opinion, it's not about your background, your financial education. It's whether or not you are curious, right? Are you
Yeah.
curious and are you
Willing and
motivated?
motivated. Yeah.
Yes. Can you learn? Can you learn about crypto? Can you learn about AI? Can you learn about metal stocks? Can you
You
learn
don't have
about
to
these?
like it, but if it can help you in
Exactly.
some ways, right?
Exactly. So, like your question is, where is the market right now? Well, right now I'm super excited. I'm super excited, but mostly I'm excited because a big bucket of my stocks are typically the profitable and growing stocks. Now, a lot of those profitable and growing stocks got obliterated in 2025 because of Trump. Trump came in, the US election was volatile. We had the trade wars, the tariffs, which caused shipping issues, contract issues, delays in contracts, capex not being spent. Everything was kind of put on pause, and these profitable and growing microcap stocks got wrecked. Well, now we're in a cycle where the U.S. midterm elections are coming up. They want a strong economy. Trump's still volatile, but he's
Yeah.
more normalized volatile. And I'm looking at all these profitable and growing microcap stocks that I think are going to have a rebound year. So, I mean, I am very excited about where we're at today. But if you're investing in SaaS stocks, they just got obliterated.
Not a good year.
You're not very excited, right?
But that
If
makes
you're
people like us interested, right? I mean, if you see them go down and maybe it's sort of the valuations you like and the margin of safety, that's something to look out for, right? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So, and that's a fantastic point. So, like, all of a sudden now, am I a SaaS investor, right? Because SaaS, if people don't understand, it came out that Anthropic, the CEO, which produces Claude AI, came out and said, "Look, AI is going to replace all software companies in the next 1 to 5 years," and software companies
And
absolutely triggered.
plugins for everything that
Yeah,
are actually useful, also you can say. So
exactly.
yeah.
So now it's like, okay, there opportunity here, and I'm adaptable, I'm flexible, I'm curious, and so I go check, like, is this true? Is this a rational thing that SaaS stocks are going to get wrecked in the future,
Yeah.
or is this a buying opportunity? And having that flexibility to say, I'm now curious. I'm going to go spend the next day just looking at whether this is true or not. And if I find it's not true, then I potentially have a significant opportunity in front of me.
Mhm.
So, I
And
mean, one of the best ways to make money investing in microcap stocks is mispricing, right? That's what we're
yeah.
all looking for, is a mispriced asset. So, if you could find that, you're going to do well.
So, looking at sort of the mispricing or perhaps companies you find interesting, like what are some of the stocks you find, at least in the current environment, interesting? Like because they have some sort of traits that you like. Like what are some of those?
So, I'm well known, and again, I don't want anybody to copy me, but what's worked for me is I typically find industry sectors that I like, industry
Mm.
sectors that I'm bullish on. And then once I do my research, I'm like, look, this has some tailwinds. This has some runway that other industry sectors don't have. And then once I find that industry sector I like, then I look for the best stocks within that industry sector. So you will see, like, that's how I found one of my more famous stocks, which is Kraken Robotics, was because everybody at the time, the Ukraine war was popping off and everybody was looking at drone stocks, and
Yeah.
drone stocks were massively undervalued. And I found Kraken Robotics. I was also interested in drone stocks, but I wasn't willing to pay these massive valuations. So I found Kraken Robotics, which was an underwater drone stock, and nobody was looking at it, right? So if you can do that, and now was I absolutely correct? Yes, drone stocks, the drone industry is now the tailwinds for the next few decades, in my opinion. And here's Kraken Robotics, which was undiscovered and mispriced, and I did well with
Not
that,
so
right?
much anymore, but
So my question is, where's your experience? Where's your competence? What do you think is the next industry sector that's going to do well? And you'll see that play out on my channel. Like a while ago, I did some cannabis. I think cannabis is kind
yeah,
of at the bottom. It's not very exciting, but I don't think it can get any worse for those companies. So I did some videos on cannabis stocks. And then recently I did gold,
yeah,
gold
you kind of
stocks.
changed your mind on that a little bit.
Sure. Absolutely. So you look, I'm not investing in any speculative stocks, but when gold goes to $5,000 and I do my research and I think reasonably it's going to continue to go up, like you got to get out those preconceptions of like, I'm not going to invest in this because it's garbage or whatever. Like, you find mispricing. It's like, if you're bullish on gold, you can go downstream and find these mispriced microcap stocks that really haven't caught up, that produce gold, that are producing cash, that are producing income, that are a company that I would like to own for the next 20 years, that simply are mispriced. And that's exactly what I'm looking for. And then recently, you see what I did is I just put out an article on data collection stocks. So everybody's excited about AI. AI is the
Yeah.
new thing. AI is amazing. Well, I'm looking at, how does AI get better? Well, AI gets better with better data, right? It's not
Or
just building
with
info.
good hardware, right? I mean, good, like
Exactly.
one example in my mind coming up is phototronics. I find them interesting. Of course, this is
Right.
no recommendation, but why do I find them interesting? Because they traded like a 14 price to earnings ratio. They have good growth, and they are sort of in a duopoly. They make these like photo masks for the chips. So yeah, that's like
There you
picks
go.
and shovels, because it's at the end of the day less riskier than if I were to invest in OpenAI, just as an example, right?
Well, that's just it, and that's sometimes the hard part, but also the easy part of investing. So you found your industry, you found your sector that you like. Within that sector, you found a really good company, and it's not just about the company doing well. The company sometimes needs a helping hand. That means being in a sector with some tailwinds, and that's kind of what I look for. So recently, it's been the cannabis stocks, kind of because they're at their bottom, kind of a deep value play. And again, there's different
Mm.
styles of investing, but then, gold is definitely more the momentum play. Where can the price of gold go? Is there mispriced assets? And then now recently it's been data collection stocks, because everybody's excited about AI. I think these stocks are being ignored. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
that's that's kind of where I think it goes for me. So, again, with YouTube and my other platforms, I typically tell people I don't do this stuff for my own health. Like, for me to actually make a YouTube video on a company, we're talking sometimes 15 hours of work. Like, I
yeah.
have to I have to do the research. I have to make sure I
Decorate the
understand the
edit.
company well enough, right? I got to script the video. I got to record the video. I got to edit the video. I got to create thumbnails for the video. And then typically to add some color to the video, I write an article to go along with the video, right?
I
Like,
mean, if you already did the work, right, you might as well write
yeah.
an article. Yeah.
So, I mean, they're not all going to be perfect companies. I'm not going to be a shareholder in everyone. I'm not, but at least I've put in
It's
like
about
15
learning,
hours of
really.
work.
It's about learning, right?
Yes.
If you look, the more
Like,
you look at those examples, the more you see those case studies, see what is successful, what wasn't, what is currently happening. That's how you get better, right? At the end of the day,
yep.
it's a repeat of the process. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and We're sort of coming at the end of this interview. So, what are some of the things you want to mention to the audience? Perhaps some of the, maybe some tips, maybe some books, some resources that are interesting, just whatever it might be.
Well, I don't think I'd even go that deep. I'm mostly like, I'm not sure who'd be watching this. If you're a new investor, you're watching this because you're new to microcaps and you want to learn, give it a shot, give it a real shot, in my opinion, right? Like, even if you decide that microcap stocks aren't for you, you're going to learn so much and you're going to come out of this and you're going to be like, okay, maybe I can't handle the volatility. Maybe microcaps aren't my thing, but I still like investing and I'm going to direct invest and I'm going to buy like a global all world index and a REIT and some dividend stocks and some gold. You're going to, in my opinion, do better than taking your money to a bank and giving it to somebody who doesn't know you, doesn't care about you, and is there for them, right? So educate yourself, love investing, learn how to invest. I think this is the space for the next couple decades for, everybody, average people, small capital, large capital, to make money, right? So it's so important to be able to make money because, a lot of wealthy people will say, well, I prefer having other things, health and time, but money is time, right? And if you can make money, you have more time in your future. So it's so important, whatever you're doing, whether you're an electrician, a plumber, you don't have to be in the financial space. I mean, Peter Lynch said that basically all the math you need for investing, you learn in the fourth grade, right?
Yeah,
You
you can
don't
boil it
need
down to
that.
multiples, right? Oh, look at the price
Exactly.
release, look at the price of sales, EV to EBITDA, whatever it might be. Really.
It's basic math, right? And so it's not that hard. It's more about your curiosity. It's about your passion, your willingness to learn. And if you're watching this, give it a shot, whether it's microcap investing or just investing in general, just try it. You are good enough. You can do it. You can learn. You don't have to go to a 6-year education. You don't have to be an accountant, right? You can just be an average person who is willing to commit X amount of hours per week and is going to make money, or at least if you don't make money right away, you're going to learn to invest. And that is going to help you and your family for the next 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, right up until,
Mm.
you're done investing and you're just cashing out, right? So,
Yeah, I mean, the
and hopefully
beautiful
having a
thing
good
is
life.
you can apply those skills really because you learn so much on how to analyze, on what to pay attention. It's also skills that you can apply in other areas, really, right? I mean, if you are able to deconstruct the whole balance sheet and have an idea and really flag all the bad things, like who goes to say you wouldn't be able to do that in a lot of other real life scenarios where it might be required, right? So this is also skills that you learn that are applicable everywhere. Of course, we might want to issue a warning that it's not going to be easy, right? I mean, it takes a lot of commitment, and it's not easy staying in this space and,
Yeah. And
and finding the passion for it, right? I mean, some people don't have it, some have it, right? So it ultimately depends on yourself. So
it's worth it for people. Like, again, I don't know who's watching this. I'm Canadian. I'm from Canada, and our financial education in Canada is terrible. They don't teach it in schools. Our parents were never taught it, so we don't get it from our parents. I was lucky that my dad gave me some, right? But typically, we're taught that your money is safe with somebody else, and
yeah,
just go take a look at your returns. Go take a look at your returns, and how much are you making? Go look at the S&P 500, how much it's gone up in the past 10 years. Do your returns match just the S&P
yeah.
500 alone? And if not, go to your bank and ask why, right? And so the ultimate, like I just said, you shouldn't be a contrarian investor. You should be investing alongside other people, friends and people you trust, but you should be a contrarian investor in that I would like more people to learn financial education, learn about how mortgages work, learn about how to save money, learn how to budget. It's not just about investing. Like, one of the amazing things with investing is once you start investing and you love it, you see everything through the eyes of an investor. So it's like, I could go buy this $8 Starbucks that I'm
Yeah.
going to drink, and maybe I kind of like it, but it's going to be gone in about 20 minutes. Or I can take that $8 and buy 100 shares in my tiny little microcap stock over here, and it could 200% in the next 12 months, right? Like, I literally look at everything through, where is my cash going to go? And that makes me save more money, invest more money, and overall that's just a better quality of life in my opinion. So
Yeah, and just to say these sorts of last things is also the beautiful part is that there is no real singular strategy where you can say, oh, this suits everybody, this is for everybody, or it's really like you can find really your own thing that you're interested in, your own sector, your own way of doing all of it. Really, you can find for yourself, right? So it can be tailored to yourself
yeah,
practically, and so
absolutely.
there's no limits really. And yeah, thank you for the opportunity to talk with you, Cameron, and also thank you that you do all these videos, right? I mean, you were also a good help for to myself really, because you put out these videos, right? You put out resources on what books are interesting, and sort of to educate yourself. So really a good resource. I recommend everybody to have a look at Cameron's channel, and thank you for the opportunity, Cameron.
I appreciate it. If I'm giving anybody motivation to learn and grow, so can I, that's the best thing I can absolutely get. So thank you. I appreciate it. Congratulations with your channel and good work, and keep it up.
Yeah, I will. Thank you.